healthcare professions come with a high pressure environment and tremendous working stress, but it's not so well known that on average, nurses are more likely to take their own lives than the national average in Britain today. When it comes to its representation in the media, the NHS isn't exactly given a glowing standard. It's the scandals, the long waiting hours, and the failures it's penalised for. How often is it we hear about the brilliance of doctors, the saving of lives and outstanding nursing? How often do the media praise the NHS for their work? Such negative associations surely can't be deserved to an industry of 1.2 million workers. It's a simple question to ask. Why do the media target the NHS, one of Britain's highlights, so much? To find out about the personal effects of being a nurse can have on their personal health and well-being, and whether the media's representation of nursing is fair, I spent some time meeting different people, finding out the facts and opinions of lives both inside and out of the NHS. Dr. Norman Claringbull has seen and helped doctors and nurses as patients over his long career in psychotherapy. I travelled to his office in Hythe to ask his opinions of the working and personal effects of nursing and whether the NHS is deserving of its media attention. So what kind of problems do nurses come to you with?
Well, I suppose nurses or anyone in the medical profession comes to me with the same sort of problems that anyone else comes to. I couldn't say that there was a particular condition that affects medical professionals, but I would say that for medical professionals who are working in the health service, National Health Service, they face additional problems both at work and at home from the pressures of working there, which to a large extent is due to the fact that the National Health Service is one of the worst employers in the country.
So are you aware that nurses and doctors in the first kind of years of their studies are at a higher risk of suicide than a standard or any other woman in the UK, kind of?
Well, it doesn't actually surprise me that may well be the case, because the medical profession generally is in the top 3 of suicide risks of all jobs in the country altogether. So the fact that it's happening at all ages across the board, it sounds to me quite believable.
To find out about the personal effects of being a nurse can have on their personal health and well-being, and whether the media's representation of nursing is fair, I spent some time meeting different people, finding out the facts and opinions of lives both inside and out of the NHS. Talking to a working nurse was my first stop. Sarah had just started her career as a nurse on the intensive cardiac unit at Southampton General Hospital. She was also a healthcare ambassador for the University of Southampton Society. How does being a nurse differ from being a doctor?
So the doctors will kind of make all the big decisions, and then the nurses will enact on those decisions. So we will say our patients here on the cardiac intensive care unit, the doctors will say, okay, we want their blood pressures to be within these limits, we want them to produce this much amount of urine an hour, and they will make sure that the patient kind of stays within that. And the doctor, not that doctors don't care about the care of the patient, but that's not their job. Our job is to care, so we'll be doing feeding, washing, cleaning, dressing, all the other bits, as well as the medication, where the doctors make the big, nasty, scary decisions.
Yeah. So how tough would you say is it to be a nurse? Could anyone be a nurse if they get the training?
No, I don't think so at all. I think you have to be the right sort of person, because it drains you, it really does. But in what you get back, so I will have a terrible day and I'll be really stressed, or say a patient passes away, and I'll go home and I'll be really upset, and I'll talk to my partner or my uncle about it, and then the next day I'll come in and you'll have someone just give you, whether it's a relative, a patient or a member of staff, just give you a really sincere thank you for something that you've done, and it just melts it all away, and it just makes it all so worth it. So worth it. I think sometimes you do take it home with you, although I know you're not supposed to, but it is hard not to. And we've got a really fantastic support network, so if there is something traumatic happen on the ward, one of the senior staff will take you aside and just make sure that you're okay, but it still plays in the back of your head. I mean, I think I can remember every single patient that I've looked after that's passed away, and I don't know if you know, I think that's the way it's all will be, because that's part, you know, we care that you can't switch that off.
So are you aware of the higher suicide rate for healthcare professionals?
I'm not, but to be honest, I don't think I'd find it that hard to believe, because as much as I've said it is a fantastic job and I love what I do, there are lots of people who struggle. I work in a fantastic environment where I have loads of support, but I'm aware that that's not always the case. And I think, especially on some of the wards, like I don't think I could be a ward nurse now, simply because I'm used to this amount of support. Like, we've got 2 doctors on shift all the time, so if something goes wrong, you don't have to go very far to ask for help. Whereas on a ward, you don't have that, and you have sometimes, you know, 10 patients, and that is a huge stress. And I think, you know, if a patient dies or passes away, even, you know, that you check through the paperwork, you check through everything, you know that you have done nothing wrong and nothing about that was your fault, but you still feel guilty that you weren't able to do anything about it. And like I said earlier, I remember every single patient I've had that has passed away, whether it was sudden, unexpected, you know, planned, like they were palliative or something, you just don't forget. And that's hard. I think I had an oncology placement, and there was a patient that was admitted on my first shift. I did all of that paperwork and everything, and he ended up passing away on my last night shift. So it was kind of like a start to finish thing. And I went home and I watched The Fault in Our Stars, which is probably not the best of ideas. And I think I hadn't really got upset the whole placement. I just kind of got on with it and carried on. And I just cried for about 4 hours straight. And my housemate came in and was like, "What happened?" I was like, "Oh, just, you know, crying," because I hadn't spoken about it to anyone. I'd just kind of gone, no, this is what a nurse does. This is their job. I can't get upset about it. I've got to be a professional. But I quickly learned that that's not the way, and that, you know, it is okay to get upset, because that's what makes you human. And nurses are human. We're, you know, we're caring and we're wonderful in many ways, but we're human and stuff hurts and it's hard. But, you know, it's our job. Got to get on with it.
After my talk with Sarah, I wanted to find out about how her becoming a nurse changed her from the perspective of her family and how working as a nurse has affected them. Sarah suggested I talk to her uncle, who could give me insight into how he believes her personal life has been affected. So how has Sarah changed since she's become a nurse?
Oh wow, that's an interesting question. So, I mean, she's changed quite a lot just in the period of time when she decided to start nursing, to be perfectly fair. She matured quite quickly, I feel. And yeah, from that sort of teenager phase where I don't know what I want to do, and I don't like this and I don't like that. And then as suddenly, for us, it was kind of this real step change. And we all kind of went, "Where's our niece gone? What's happened to Sarah? She's been abducted." And yeah, so she's matured a huge amount in the last 3 or 4 years, to be fair. You know, so she was doing your foundation course first, and then into the uni stuff. And to be honest, I didn't think it was going to stick, but it would appear it has.
Have there been any times since, you know, Sarah's been working there that she's, you know, felt the need to come and talk to you about something that's happened at the hospital, or, you know, you've had to support her in some kind of way?
So the hospital experience, I think more recently, now you're kind of coming with stuff because now you are working. During the uni years, I think it is very well supported as far as I understand it. I think the mentors and the teams they put the students with is par excellence, to be perfectly fair. And whilst there was suddenly this, dare I say, nerdy little girl that we knew is suddenly coming in going, "I saw someone's heart today," or "I did this," or, you know, we resuscitated this guy who wasn't supposed to live, and you're kind of, oh my God. The little girl that we knew has grown up. I think the thing that really impressed me, and on the back of maybe some of the negative news around nursing and the NHS in general over the last few years, when you started, I think the report from, was it Stoke? Francis report and things like that was just landing. And there was a big emphasis, they'd already reviewed the syllabus with knowing that this was coming, about care and how you apply care into that nursing environment and all the rest of it, and the fact that possibly that had been missing from what was being delivered. But it's that, it's that kind of, hang on a minute, there's massive sea change here.
Yeah.
And that was just, it was all positive at the end of the day. I mean, there are always peaks and troughs, but it was just like, kind of, blimey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you proud of what she's
Oh,
achieved
no,
now?
not at all. Keep that in. No, absolutely proud of her, to be fair. She's just stepped up in so many different ways. She'll start crying if I keep going. I'll warn you of that now. But we were all just so impressed with the woman that she's become.
Yeah.
She's definitely sort of moved through that sort of teenager, young lady sort of phase to an adult woman who knows her mind and has a professional outlook. And we couldn't be prouder of that. And having been just a small part, we really do think we're just a small part of it. We've just been that baseboard. We've just been this baseboard for her to come back to and have a reality check, and then go back and live her life. And that's what she's doing.
My next stop was to meet 3 second-year nursing students from Cardiff University. I needed to find out more about why they chose this vocation and understand how their lives have changed since starting their studies. Firstly, I interviewed Sam, who is practicing mental health, then Rachel and Jack, who are both practicing adult nursing. So why did you want to be a nurse?
So basically, my mum used to suffer with mental health issues, and I always grew up around that and saw it firsthand. And I was taken into care because of my mum's mental health issues and looked after by the local authorities. And I always got an interesting perspective on things because although I wasn't the patient or the client, I was a close relative. So I used to look at things and see how they were done. And then I would kind of assess them and see if I thought that was okay. Because there were some times where I would think that people would drop the ball and things would get missed. And I always thought that if I could become a mental health nurse, then I could be one of the people to change that a little bit.
So why did you both want to become nurses?
I don't really know. I just my brother, he's got an inherited condition, so we spent a lot of time visiting him in hospital when I was little, and I grew up visiting him in hospital and being surrounded by all this medical side of it, so I just wanted to find out what was happening, and I just grew up with it.
I think mine started when I looked into the course and the practical and theory side of it.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to do history, but then I thought, where can I really go with that? And I thought nursing's quite sort of adventurous, I guess you could say. Leads to a job as well.
So what do you feel is the hardest part of becoming a nurse?
Probably just the time and the toll that it has on you. So, for example, on one of my other placements, I used to have to get up at 4:30, and then that was in the morning, and then I used to get in at 10:30, 11, and it's draining.
Yeah.
And then you have the theory side to balance with it as well.
Yeah.
So the time management it's so important in the degree that I'm doing as a nurse, because if you don't, then things will just get on top of you, and you'll have all the stress from your placements build up, and then you'll have all your stress from your academic stuff building up, and you just melt down.
Have either of you ever had the thought of quitting or?
Yeah.
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 Quite a few times.
What made you stay? How are you still going?
Just the amount of work, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's so rewarding what you do.
Yeah.
Although the bad days make you want to quit, then you have a good day which makes you want to carry on.
Yeah.
Even the little things, it's you have your bad days where something catastrophic could have happened on the ward, or just some days people just don't have a very good day. Everyone has their off days, but it's the little things that make it worth it. It's like people say, saving lives. I don't find it's keeping people living. That's helping them go about their day-to-day routine if they're in a hospital, or trying to keep their independence, their normality, and get them back out.
Do you feel that sometimes the representation of the NHS in the media can sometimes discourage people from the NHS?
Yeah.
They always go on about the hours, it's the bad things. You always hear about the Andrews report, the Francis report, nursing care. Nurses are the front line and always seem to take the brunt of the so-called negligence. Well, those things, they do happen. It's going to happen in a world where everything happens. But they happen so rarely, and it's the good things happen day in, day out, every hour, every minute of every day. And you just don't hear about those things. So it's when you actually get through the door and you think, oh, it's even like helping someone who hasn't eaten for 2 or 3 days, like, oh, what do you fancy for tea? And you get them having a cup of tea and some biscuits, and then slowly build them up to having like a Sunday dinner. You know, it's those little things, those are the little things that should be sent on the front page of a newspaper, but aren't. Instead, it's these really awful things that happen very, very rarely.
It shows how easy it is to be swept away by the views of the media. By talking to these people, I felt a great surge of respect for the NHS and its workers. The attitudes of dedication and caring from these people renew a perspective that is rarely expressed in the media. These people literally transform their lives so they can help others. Nothing about this is deserving of the conventionally negative views of the media.